Chris hit us up. He said, why do people just assume Ohio State can win a national title every year? My answer is because they can win a national title every year.
Lay hold of it. You lay hold of it. And when that thing tells you to quit, you look at it in his eye and say, I ain't going nowhere. I will break you before you break me. You will not defeat me. You will not destroy me. Some of you are so ignorant. You've been through so much hell. You gonna quit now? You should have quit 10 years ago. You should have been quit. You don't quit now. It's the 10th round. You got 2 more to go. And when you get to success, it's not about skill. When you get to a certain level of success, it's about stamina. It's about stamina. It's about you won't break me. You can't take me. It's too late now. It's too late. You should have broke me a long time ago. I'm unbreakable now. The only chance at this point is you gotta kill me. And you gotta kill me now. And then when you kill me, my legacy will live.
Welcome into the Voice of College Football Ohio State channel after the Buckeyes get done with a thorough beating of Oregon, 41-21. This is me, JR, and Cleveland Mike going to be breaking down the entire game for you all. Before we get into it, we do want to offer our thoughts and prayers with those who are in New Orleans who have been affected by the attack that went on down there. That was a very sad news to wake up to this morning, obviously, for us. I can only imagine what those people are going through as well. So we are praying for them. We are hoping for the best for them. We are hoping for a safe and praying for a safe game tomorrow for Georgia and Notre Dame, not only on the field, but also off the field, in the stadium, everywhere else. So if you are someone who is a praying person, please send up a prayer for the people down there. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about the game because I got Mike with me here, and when Mike tweeted it out during the during the halftime, I thought this is gonna be a good show, Mike. I was feeling good about it. Obviously, Ohio State up 34-8 there at halftime. Oregon mounted a bit of a comeback, you could say. Will Howard called it a comeback at the end of the game during his press conference, on-field interview, or whatever you want to call it afterward. Was there any point in time when you were feeling a little nervous in the second half? What was your thoughts there?
Yeah, man. I began to feel nervous when they went down and scored. But, I'm nervous the whole game. I'm always nervous until the game is over. I was nervous at halftime because they are an explosive offense, and they have made good adjustments throughout the season, man. But, all I was saying the whole time was, offense needs to score. And the defense just needs to hold them a couple times, and someone had asked in the group chat, in the Ohio State group chat, like, can Oregon score 5 touchdowns on Ohio State, just going into halftime? And I said, no, I don't believe they could do that on our defense at all, man. And I know some of us Ohio State fans got a little teed off with the conservative play calling kind of on defense and on offense because it felt like it got a little conservative too early. But, hey, we still got the dub, so what is there to complain about?
For real. Yeah. The 11 play, 75-yard drive to start off the second half for Oregon. Mm-hmm. You're kind of thinking, maybe you're a little nervous here, but I just thought back to, I was like, man, that was like 6 minutes off the clock just for that one scoring drive. You're going to tell me they're going to get Ohio State in a 3-and-out every single time, and they're just going to go on 10, 11 play scoring drives with no issues? Come on, that wasn't going to happen. So I felt confident from the jump. Really, after Trevion Henderson had that 66-yard touchdown run, I just thought, Oregon's defense doesn't have it today. If you're able to throw the ball deep and the safeties can't contain the wide receivers, if the offensive line is going to block like that and release and get these guys down the sideline, there's nothing you could do, right? Oregon finishes this game. I'm going to read the stats for you, Mike. They finished this game only 2 tackles for loss. That hit by Derek Harmon, so credit to him. But both those happened in the fourth quarter. Outside of that, no sacks, no more tackles for loss, no interceptions, one pass breakup, no QB hits. I mean, this was a thorough performance by the Ohio State offense. Really, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better performance. Like you said, we can maybe get nitpicky about some of the conservative play calling and stuff like that, but Will Howard was on his game, didn't have the play that we kind of all dread where he maybe throws an interception or something like that and something happens. Trevion Henderson ends the game doing a great job. He had 8 carries for 94 yards. Quinshawn Judkins had 17 carries for 85 yards. I mean, overall, this offense just absolutely throttled the Oregon defense.
Agreed, man. They definitely took care of business, and this was something that we have been talking about, right? Ohio State since that game had just been a completely different defense. I mean, I was in the Big Ten chat and was looking, and guys was like, "Oh my God!" They came out in like a 3-3 front, 3-5, 3-3-5 front, and I'm like, we've been a multiple defense. Like, there's going to be things that you probably haven't seen, and that was the thing that Dan Lanning kept saying in his interviews before the game was every time we continue to watch film, there's something else about the defense that's different. And guess what? What did Nick Saban say when we first played? The defense was too predictable, and now it wasn't. Put Dillon Gabriel in conflict.
For sure, for sure. Dillon Gabriel had a hard time in this game in the first half. He came out and did better in the second half. I got a lot of respect for Dillon Gabriel, right? I mean, he never gave up. He was doing everything he could to try and get his team out there, but he was down Evan Stewart at the beginning of the game, got hurt in warm-ups. I missed that until I saw a tweet about it. I was kind of like, oh, where's Evan Stewart at? Tez Johnson was on and off the sidelines. I mean, just point blank, if you don't have elite wide receivers, you're not going to have a very good day on offense. Most likely you're going to need a spectacular performance from your defense in order to beat Ohio State if you don't have wide receivers, because you saw in this game with the reserves of Oregon. Now, Trayshawn Holden did a pretty good job. He had not pretty good. He had a good game. He had 116 yards, 2 touchdowns in the game, but really, other than that, it was Ferguson and Whittington, the running back, who was able to move the ball through the air, because your wide receivers just aren't good enough if they're not some of the best in the country. So hats off to Trayshawn Holden, but at the end of the day, Ohio State secondary played an awesome game. Let's start there on defense, all right? Let's start in the secondary. Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom comes up with some big hits, does a really good job, not only in coverage, but in run defense. Denzel Burke, didn't really hear his name called all game. That's kind of what you want as a cornerback. Iggy looked like he was a soccer player out there, getting hit in the head with the ball one time. What were your thoughts with the secondary there, Mike?
Man, the secondary was coming alive. And one thing that I just kept noticing throughout the game, I want to give a special shout out to Caleb Downs, because that man was putting his body on the line, throwing it, diving all over the place, man, coming up, making hits, taking on blockers. Shout out to Caleb Downs, man. But like you said, the whole defense, the secondary, Denzel Burke was not the fish. We heard all game they was talking about, oh, we seen some weaknesses in Iggy and all of that. And I mean, I didn't really see the weaknesses that they were talking about or whatever they thought that it was. They were only really getting off when we started playing soft coverage, man. But when we were putting pressure, throwing the pocket back into Dillon Gabriel, I mean, it just allowed the secondary to be free, man. So I do say this, going forward, Ohio State defensive backs and linebackers, get on the jugs machine this come following week. Because we should have had at least 2 picks. I mean, there was way more opportunities than that, but we should have at least had 2 picks. So.
Yeah, the Caleb Downs one there at the beginning of the game. If he would have caught that, that would have been even more disaster time for Oregon in that one. But I'm with you. I mean, this is really, at this point, the way this defense is playing, that is the only real weakness I can see in this defense. And we saw it last year, right? Like, they're going to stop you. They're going to do a good job in the red zone. Now, they didn't have a great time in the red zone today, but they're going to stop you. but they're going to stop you by letting you get to third, fourth down. They are not going to get a whole lot of turnovers. And if you're a team that needs to come back or needs to, find a way to get back into the game, that can kind of work out for you. It's really interceptions, fumbles. I should say they've done a good job of forcing fumbles this year. That's an area where they've gotten better. But you're exactly right. Intercepting the ball, catching the ball, it's not been the best area for the secondary. So definitely need to improve there. But I'll tell you, an area that I don't know how much more they could improve was the defensive line in this game, Mike. Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau had a fantastic day. You didn't get to see a whole lot of numbers from Tyleik Williams. He had 3 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. But, boy, when I watched the game, was he in on every single play. It felt like he made himself a lot of money in the NFL draft tonight. I do believe that.
Agreed. He was very disruptive in the run game. And I think we have talked on this show how important it is, especially going into this game against Oregon. We were talking about how important it was for the defensive tackles to throw the guards and the centers back into Dylan Gabriel, right? Yep. Don't allow him. And then him being short, it seemed like it was an issue. So shout out to the defensive line, man, because I've heard all offseason or since that game, Oregon fans have been calling our defensive line mud, saying that, they're not good. And I was trying to explain to people, it was the scheme. It was the scheme. Now we change it up. Everybody is seeing how good that these guys are. And I also want to give credit to Jack Sawyer because can we now say, Buckeye fans, a lot of people didn't want to say that Jack Sawyer was elite, but in the big games, this man has shown up. Yeah, we lost the team up north game. He still showed up. We didn't lose that game because of Jack Sawyer. And I also want to shout out Jack Sawyer because he does not get discouraged. DG on Twitter posted that picture or whatever of how Jack Sawyer was getting chokehold. And there's no call or any holding or anything at all. And the guy was out there just still making plays, deflecting the ball at the line of scrimmage, just like he was doing against Tennessee as well, man. And also shout out to his IQ for seeing that screenplay, getting his hands up as well, man. The defensive line is playing lights out. And want to say shout out to Ryan Day, Larry Johnson, and Jim Knowles for trusting the rotation.
For sure. I mean, the rotation has been a huge part of him being able to do what he's done in this one, being able to stay fresh, I don't have the entire snap count and all that stuff, but looking back on the Tennessee game, he only played 43 snaps in that game. And you say 43, that is still a good amount, but that's in comparison to earlier in the year when he was playing 64 against Nebraska, 60 against Oregon. I mean, he played 45 against Marshall. He played less snaps against Tennessee than he did against Marshall in a game where he should have been off the field much, much more, giving more snaps to Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry. By the way, Caden Curry came up with a sack in this game as well. That was really cool to see. I mean, Mike, let's look at the numbers really fast for Jack Sawyer since the Indiana game, right? Okay, so since the Indiana game, he has given out, I don't know how many pressures he had in this game, but 13 pressures. He has had, if he had 2 sacks tonight, he's had 5 sacks since the Indiana game. He has 1 interception, and I can't find the tackles for loss all that well, but point is that the guy's just been on a mean streak, and he's actually who I put a poll up in the thing. He's who you all voted as the defensive player of the game. I mean, at this point, it's hard to argue, right? Cody Simon had a fantastic game as well. We'll talk about the linebackers here in a second, but I would probably give it to Jack Sawyer just because he was literally getting held on nearly every single play. I mean, it was easier to find the plays that he was getting held than to find the plays he wasn't getting held. Agreed. Because that right tackle just had no answer. The guy from Rhode Island, I forget which one it is. Connerly is the left tackle, I think. I forget who the right tackle is, but he had no answer for Jack Sawyer. I mean, is this Jack Sawyer's legacy Ohio State Buckeye run? If they get to the national championship, is this like his, dare I say it, Joey Bosa type of run where he is just a complete menace, game wrecker where no tackle wants to face him?
I mean, he definitely could be on that trajectory. He just have to keep it up, because if he does this against Texas, and they're, have been said that they're one of the top offensive lines all nation. If he
They didn't
does
play
this
like it
against
against Arizona, by the way.
yeah, I mean, if he does this against Texas, you might as well go ahead and say that, man. Jack Sawyer definitely has made himself some money in this game, man. And like you said, he just continues to get held. And you said you don't know how many pressures he got. It had to at least been 2 or 3 minimum in this game as well, man. So, but also on Best Damn Media platform, one thing that we have talked about from the very beginning is how different it is when you get Ohio guys there. What does Jack Sawyer want to do? He wants to put on for the state. Where was this man? 10 minutes down the road from Ohio Stadium, man. This man wants to do this for the state of Ohio with every fight, with every fiber in his being, man. And you can just tell, you can see it. You can also see the confidence that he is growing and getting as well. And he's a leader on this team. And that's what you want. You want the Ohio guys to be the leaders, to be those type of guys on this team. And, I just get excited the more and more of the Ohio guys that we get on this roster, because when we win national championships, our roster is always filled with Ohio guys. It's just a fact.
It is.
It's a fact.
And we got some really good Ohio guys on this team. We kind of gave him a hard time after the Michigan game, but Tegra Shabola, another Ohio guy that has done a good job here ever since that game against Tennessee. And now in this game, I haven't seen like the PFF grades or anything like that, but from everything I saw, like Tegra did a good job considering who he's going up against in Derek Harmon most of the time in this one. So you really got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line. We'll talk about them in just a second. Let's hit the linebackers really fast, because I think they deserve a lot of credit. Like I said, Cody Simon in this one, he was fantastic. Here's his stat total: 11 total tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 pass deflection.
7 solo.
What more can you ask from your linebacker, Mike? Now, Sonny Styles had a good game too. He had 4 tackles and he was all over the place. Had a good chase down on, I think it was Tez Johnson. Nearly chased him down on that end around, but he didn't quite pad the stat sheet like Cody Simon did. What's your thoughts on the linebackers?
Man, linebackers, Cody Simon, play phenomenal, man. And it is just crazy that this man was not up for any awards. And maybe if we had been playing this type of defensive style from the beginning of the season, maybe he would have been up for those type of awards, man. But shout out Cody Simon, man. I mean, 7 solo himself out there. And he was coming down, laying the lumber. I remember talking all the time about, hey, we don't really hear the pads the guys hitting, but we heard them guys hitting, and we heard them hitting today. I mean, I think they took the running back out. He was under, I think, concussion protocol. So, I mean, shout out to the linebackers. Sonny Styles made a couple plays. I do say this. I do wish that we could get a little bit more rotation for Sonny Styles, because it did look like even in like the beginning of the third quarter, he just seemed tired. He looked gassed or whatever. So I do want to see more rotation, because if you're able to trust it from the D-line, because you gave those guys those reps, imagine what it could be at the linebacker position as well. Because I didn't want to see Sonny put out any like bad tape or whatever, and I think that we could help him, giving him some rotation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Arvell Reese is definitely somebody that's deserved the playing time. I mean, every time he gets in the game, it seems like he makes something happen. I understand being hesitant with CJ Hicks. I think you still have to give him time in the game, though. I mean, if you want him to grow as a player, and he's not entered the portal, so it's not like I mean, maybe he will, but it's not like he's on his way out and already decided or anything like that. So maybe you already got him taking reps at edge or something like that. I have no idea. But you definitely need to give these guys some more time, because against Texas, you can't have Cody Simon and Sonny gassed in the third quarter. Those guys are going to have to be doing a lot, especially with Texas wanting to run the ball, who does have a good offensive line. Like I said, they didn't have a great performance against Arizona State, but they've still done well this season. So don't want to don't want to overlook them. All right, Mike, let's talk about the offense. And normally we start with like Will Howard, but I got to be honest, man. We got to start with Jeremiah Smith and what he did in this game. 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was targeted 10 times. In addition to that, he also had a carry for 5 yards. So not the biggest thing in the world, but still they're adding that in, using him. I mean, he's gone Michael Jordan. I mean, he's putting the team on his back. Who was it on Twitter? I think it was Hayes Fawcett said something like he's LeBron James or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Put him as Michael Jordan. I don't want a choker. I want a closer.
He said JJ out his mouth said Michael Jordan or Kobe, man. So I'm giving what that man said, and I believe that those two are GOATs anyways in my book. Yeah, let's go with that. Like you said.
Well, and he changed this. Did you see he changed his profile picture to Michael Jordan on Twitter? Yeah, he changed his profile picture to a picture of Michael Jordan sitting on the bench. It was the part of The Last Dance when Michael Jordan gives that speech. I clipped it on Twitter. Nobody liked it, so I guess people didn't get it. But it was the part of The Last Dance where Michael Jordan gave that speech, like, I got on to everybody, and I never asked them to do something I wouldn't do. And so in practice, you weren't gonna come out and be lazy. Every single person. And honestly, it kind of matches what JJ was talking about in the press conference, right? Going to Brian Hartline and saying, hey, challenge me. I'm going to put this team on my back. I'm going to go out there and win it for us all. I mean, he did about as much as a wide receiver can do to put the team on his back, right? I mean, nobody could guard him out there. I think Jabbar Muhammad had one pass deflection on him, but I think that ball was, thrown a little bit too behind him. So I think that was probably more on Will Howard than it was Jeremiah Smith. But I mean, at this point, like, if JJ keeps playing this way, nobody's beating Ohio State simply because of how unstoppable this man is by himself.
Yeah. And Timothy Thomas said that Oregon have a flu game. Well, it definitely wasn't an MJ type flu game, probably a LeBron type flu game. But
I did think about that. I did think, like, if they did, like, you could have said maybe like Evan Stewart with how he didn't play. Because he got hurt in warm-ups maybe, but I don't know.
Hold
whatever.
on. This is crazy.
It's already up to 6.5 too.
Okay, because that's crazy because I saw that it has started at -2. Then now they're saying 4.5, now 6.5. That is crazy.
Montana said the last I seen, Texas was a 2.5-point favorite. If it jumped to 6.5 from 2.5 in a matter of a half hour, what we've been on here for a half hour almost.
Texas's favorite 6.5 or 2.5.
Texas was a 2.5-point favorite. I can't imagine that.
I thought that we were the ones that I saw was we were favored, and so that's what I thought that they were talking about. Buckeye, like Nick said, favorite.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll get to that. We'll get to
Ohio
the Texas talk in a minute.
I mean, Ohio State right now on FanDuel is favored 5.5.
Yeah, we'll get to Texas in a minute, but yeah, shout out what JJ is doing, man. And I was out there asking in the group chat, like, is this guy the number 1 pick when he gets drafted? Like,
they say he's the number 1 pick this year, Mike.
I mean, why wouldn't you take him? He is he's a game changer, and I mean, it's hard to deny it that what he did in triple coverage. I don't know if you've seen the Ohio State video that they put out, but then they said, oh, I saw cover 2. And was like, uh-oh. Like, you got to go to the Ohio State video clips on Twitter and turn the volume up, and you'll see I saw it was cover 2, and I said, uh-oh. But that's what Brian Hartline does. And, sometimes I watch, like I've been watching these games, and I see the difference from our wide receivers versus other wide receivers. And the difference is they're reading or trying to read the defense just as well as the quarterback is. And that is what makes Ohio State wide receivers elite. That's what makes them different. And this is what JJ came to Ohio State for. So shout out to JJ, man. I just like to continue to see him eating. And I also want to say shout out to Brian Hartline, because I don't know if you've seen the tweet of Brian Hartline holding up his phone.
Yep, to
Ari. But It's something about these Ohio State wide receiver coaches and Ari Wasserman. They don't seem to have too much love for that guy.
No, they do not. No, and if you don't know, Ari Wasserman, I believe he began at the Cleveland.com. And I mean, Cleveland is known for being a little critical sometimes. Cleveland media is known for being a little critical sometimes, I guess you could say. So maybe that comes into it as well. But I also know there's some people that cover Cleveland that are some of my favorites that cover the team. So, you can't put a blank slate on all of Cleveland media. And I wouldn't dare do that here in front of Cleveland Mike. So, I wouldn't dare do that to him. So.
No, like we, talking about the former wide receiver coach, he's giving credit to Doug Maurice and stuff like that. But the way he feels about Ari is just a different level,
It's true.
It's completely a different level. He said that he got respect for Doug, and I've always had respect for Doug as well. And with, Cleveland.com, and what they have done. So, but yeah, Ari, he wasn't my favorite. I ain't gonna lie. I just felt like he was full of himself sometimes.
A little bit sometimes. Let's talk O-line. We'll get to Will Howard in a second. Let's talk O-line. Mike, I was on a couple different shows. I was on a show with you, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there. Were you there when we talked O-line?
Something like that. I was late, though. I was
late. You were late. That was like my key to it all, right? Was if Oregon's defensive line can get pressure on Ohio State with just 4 against this offensive line. And I said, I thought the offensive line was going to do a good job run blocking in this one. For me, it was the pass blocking. I felt like with 5 guards, you're going to be rotating another guard in there. So 6 guards on this offensive line, you should be able to run block. Right? You should have the nasties who are able to move dudes and run block, which they were able to do. Quinjon and Travion neither had over 100 yards, but both of them averaged over 5 yards per carry, had a good game. I did not expect the pass blocking to be so good as well. Donovan Jackson on the edge did a great job. Josh Fryer continues to perplex me every single game, because going into the season, everybody was like, this dude's a guard. This guy can't hang out there. This guy can't play right tackle. He locked up James Pierce Jr. last week, and this week, Mateo Uyunglele,
who
couldn't get past him.
Couldn't
get past him, right? It took some restraint for me not to go remind his dad about some of his.
Too late. I already did it.
Okay, good. You did it.
I did it. I put the team on. You can go retweet it.
Okay, I'll go find it. But overall, I mean, this offensive line, the run blocking, the pass protection, everything they were able to do this game. I mean, through 3 quarters, the defensive line had no sacks, no tackles for loss, no pass deflection. I mean, they were just nothing going on in the game. Mike, what'd you think of the offensive line?
Man, shout out to the offensive line. And it's funny because when you were talking about I remember you talking about the offensive line on the show that we were on, and it was like I had the opposite take. I was more worried, like you said, because they are guards. Like, I agree with you. They should be better in run blocking, right? But we have struggled in run blocking this year. And so I was more worried about the run blocking, but honestly, it hasn't really mattered who's out there. Normally, we do other than Zim Mahalski, we've done pretty good at pass blocking. So I wasn't too worried about that. And I also want to say, shout out to Luke Montgomery. Yeah, that man got knocked down a couple of times, but he kept coming back, fighting. And I'm telling you, that young man is going to be stronger because of this game. And I cannot wait to see him moving forward. And next year, he's going to definitely be a mauler and an elite player, man. And it's just, I keep saying this. I can only imagine if this kid had got reps sooner. Like, I can only imagine.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you look at Luke Montgomery and what he's been able to do. I think it's one of those things where, like, you see this rotation now with the guards, and I didn't love the idea at first, but I also remember, I mean, this is a deep cut. I don't know how many Ohio State fans are going to think about this, but Minnesota back in 2021, PJ Fleck was rotating his guards, and it was something that was very perplexing, and a lot of people are like, what in the world is he doing? But it actually kind of turned out well because the guards were staying fresh the entire game, and these tackles had played with these guards so much that it almost didn't matter that somebody else was playing next to them, because you always hear about cohesion, right, with the offensive line. You want everybody to be cohesive. You want everybody to play together well. you didn't see an issue with that in this game. I mean, there were some stunts and stuff like that Oregon was trying to run, and there was one stunt where Derek Harmon went to the outside and he got him around Josh Fryer and forced Will Howard out of the pocket. But that that also took a little bit longer of a time, and I think that Will Howard more had an issue because he couldn't find a receiver rather than it was an outstanding pass rush by Oregon. But still, like, you've seen this offensive line, these guards in the middle, they seem more fresh. And at the end of the game, not only do you see running backs with fresh legs going up against tired defensive linemen, you're seeing guards in the middle of the offensive line with fresh legs who are being able to push guys like Caldwell and Harmon, who were pushing them back in the fourth quarter last year. And so when it comes down to it, like, this Ohio State running game, it looks even better in the third and fourth quarter, which is not something Buckeye fans have been super used to in big games. It looks even better in the third and fourth quarter, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was I don't know if you was still on the show when I had said that to Ryan. And I said, guys like Mateo and Harmon, they've been playing all season. They have a whole season on their body. Luke Montgomery doesn't have that. Carson Hinsman doesn't have that. Austin Serrafield does not have that. I mean, and you could kind of say like Donovan Jackson, he didn't play like the first 3 games. So I mean, a lot of these guys, and that was one thing that everybody was kind of confused when Ryan Day was talking in his press conference was we are the healthiest that we've been. And everybody was like, I know even Ryan and what was the guy's name? Brian on the show with us. He was confused, like, this the healthiest you've been. Y'all done had like 20 plus offensive line combinations. What are you talking about? But now I think that people understand exactly what Ryan Day was talking about because, we would have a big wide receiver go down. In the past, you remember J.K. Dobbins going down hurt us. Trey Sermon going down hurt us. Just the way that we have the depth at all the positions and being healthy at all the positions late in the season. Travion. Normally, we're not even able to talk about Travion in the postseason or, late in games.
Normally it's injured.
Yeah. So, I mean, just shout out. And I know Coach Mick gets a lot of grief. And I think that is because Gene Smith was hot in the money to help him, excel more and get more of the sports science in there. But also shout out to Coach Mick and what he has done because, I mean, isn't these guys being healthy? Isn't this a reflection on Coach Mick?
Yeah. No, I think it's a reflection on it for sure. And I think, I was talking with it on Juck on Bucks, I think on Monday. Well, we recorded it Sunday. I think you put it out there Monday. Like, I do think that some of this has been Ryan Day working with a slower offense and less plays because he does want to have less guys get injured. Now, it worked out with guys like Trevion Henderson and Jeremiah Smith in the Northwestern game, right? He kind of left that game a little bit early. Will Kazmarek got injured in the Oregon game, but he was able to come back here later in the season. In fact, he played in this game. But I do think that Ryan Day was kind of using less plays and slower tempo throughout the year to try and make sure these guys didn't get hurt. Now, I don't really like that because I think you end up dropping games you're not supposed to drop, i.e. the Michigan game. I think that was one of the reasons why you dropped that game was because you worked with a slower tempo and you played into Michigan's hands where they wanted you to have the ball less. Now, obviously, turnovers, missed field goals, those are other pieces of it too. If you play a perfect game, you don't worry about those things, but that's a conversation for another day. But I look at this and I say, in this situation, it's working out really well because not only does Ohio State have less injuries, but Ohio State does look like the healthiest team in the playoffs. Like, I've watched every playoff game. Penn State looks beat up in a few, like Drew Aller in particular, looks beat up. Right? There were a few other guys on that Penn State team that looked beat up. Abdul Carter had to leave the game early because of a shoulder issue. Is that because he got beat up during the season? Or did he just take a bad hit in the game? Who knows? But, I mean, that kind of stuff happens. Texas, they look a little bit beat up in some areas. This Ohio State team looks super fresh. So it's kind of like, the strength and the weakness of it all. Like, I love it because the team looks so fresh, but at the same time, I hate it because I'm like, we dropped a game we shouldn't have dropped because of the way we were playing, in my opinion.
Right.
What do you think on that? Like, are you cool with it? You feel like me, where it's like, I don't really like it? What's your thoughts on it all?
I don't like it at all. And I have been very vocal, I believe, for a couple of years on our platform about that. I think that I understood why they did it. I understand why
Right,
you
it
did
makes
it.
sense, yeah.
And shout out to Cron over here who said, "Good game, y'all. This is the offense you should have been playing all season." And what I believe is you can play like this all season if you trust the rotation. And you're seeing the D line is fresher because I'm sorry, but sometimes playing in the slow games. Let's talk about the team up north game. Our defense was out there a lot. But do you know why Jack Sawyer was still able to kind of look fresh? Because you trust in the rotation. And I know that we do it at a couple positions or whatever, but the reason why you're able to do it is because Caden Curry got reps his freshman year. Yeah, it wasn't a lot. Kenyatta Jackson, they got reps last year. Yeah, it wasn't a lot, but you keep building on that. Just imagine if we could stop taking those reps away from them early and give them more reps earlier where they could be and also where our team could be. Because I think that even from like a recruiting standpoint, I think you would have less wide receivers, less running backs, less skill guys, less DBs or anything hitting the portal if they're like, hey, we can win and we rotate. Hey, Ohio State is 2-3 deep. Like it was the talking point for obviously Tennessee. But you know, it helped Tennessee. And I think Ohio State kind of learned something from Tennessee. I think I tweeted this out or said this in the group. I think Ohio State actually learned something from Tennessee when they were watching their film and the rotation of that D-line and how effective your D-line can be when you rotate. And I don't think that is just for D-line. I think it's for all positions.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly correct. And I think if you play like this, you're going to find yourself. I mean, if you're able to do this against Oregon 41-21, which by the way, look at the national championship score from 2014. Just going to say that really fast, 42-20. So kind of poetic the way you were able to do that in the playoffs again. But, you know, you look at these other games, like Nebraska is a game that you should have dominated them for the entire game, and you should have had your starters out midway through the third quarter. You should have had Julian Sayin in there, Devin Brown in there, throwing to guys like Brandon Inniss and Bryson Rogers, and you have Edric Houston in the middle, and you're getting guys like, who's the guy last year that freshman that came in late, Dominic Kirks. You could have had him on the edge or on the interior or something like that. Now, I don't know exactly how healthy every single one of those guys were at that time. I'm just using them as an example to say, like, you would only have those guys playing 40, 50 snaps if you just went fast and went hard at the beginning of the game instead of, you know, leading up to it like they seem to kind of be doing, right? I mean, we haven't had a fast start all season long. And then here in the first two games of the playoffs, you score 21 points. And do they have 21 points in the first quarter of this game? Like 21 points and 21 points. Or 17
we had
points.
14 in the first quarter, and then we got 20 in the second.
Yeah, the field goal was right at the beginning of the second quarter. That's right. So, but still, I mean, you're scoring a lot of points there in the first quarter, and the defense is coming out hot too because they look at that offense and they say, "Look at them boys go! Let's go out there and let's do our work as well." So, let's talk offense some more before we talk Texas, Mike. And I don't know how much we want to spend on each of these guys, but we obviously need to give them their flowers. I'll read some stats and then I'll just kind of let you respond to it. Will Howard, 17 for 26, 65% completion percentage, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns in this game. Trevion Henderson, 8 carries, 94 yards. It seems like a regular thing for him. Single-digit carries, nearly 100 yards or more. I mean, what he's been able to do. 2 touchdowns, 11.8 yards per carry, 11.8. That is ridiculous. Quinshon Judkins, 17 carries, 85 yards in this one. No touchdowns, but you did see Emeka Egbuka, 5 receptions, 72 yards, a touchdown. He's got to be getting close to that career rushing or receiving yards record. I don't know. I'll check while you're talking, Mike. And then one last one, G. Scott Jr., 1 catch, 30 yards there right at the beginning of the game. Your thoughts on those guys overall, Mike?
I mean, to be honest, man, it was like when I saw G. Scott right in the beginning of the game, I was like, I told them to watch out for the tight end. I thought
they were going to throw the screen to him. I was like, what are we doing? We're throwing a screen to G. Scott Jr. Like, have a block. You had a Will Kazmarek and G. Scott Jr. over on that side together. I was like, what are we doing? And then he turned up field, and I was like, okay, good play call.
Yeah, and, to be honest, I thought that we were going to go to him even more, but Will Howard was just like, F it, JJ down there somewhere. It's triple covered, double coverage, cover 2. It don't matter. It's JJ. And so, I mean, because there were definitely times where other guys was open. And sometimes I just think like Will Howard, he needed to settle down a little bit. I was coming into this game, I was worried about him pressing a little too much and stuff because he wants it that bad. And so, especially coming off after that loss, but he did a good job, started off hot in the beginning of the game. And I mean, if he hit just a couple more passes where, he didn't overthrow JJ and all this, I mean, JJ would have had 200 yards. So, I mean, it's always just crazy to see like what could be and knowing like he still had a good game. So shout out to Will Howard. He didn't take any sacks as well. Everybody told us that Oregon's D-line was going to be better. So, but then I also want to give a special shout out to Travion Henderson, man, because, I've always been highly critical of Travion, but I just think it's Coach Locke, man. Go ahead, give Coach Locke his extension because I know we only put him on a 1-year deal. I just want to hear the reports of the extension right now. Go ahead.
And give him something else too, right? Like the running coordinator coach or something like that, right?
He's worth every penny because you've seen it from the very first game, the difference in our running backs from the nastiness. I always was saying I felt like our running backs, especially Trey, was a little too passive. I did not get that from that unit this year, man. And man, I'm just so proud of Trey, man. Shout out to Trey.
Yeah, me too. I do. I just thought of this, and I'm wondering your thoughts on it. I'll bring up the Emeka receiving yard stat here in just a second because I got it. Doesn't Coach Locke feel like a future strength and conditioning coach to you? Like
he looks like it.
No, don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic running back coach. I'm not taking anything away from that at all. I'm not taking anything away. But it feels like if you put him on like strength and conditioning and like let him work with the nutritionist and all this other stuff and everything, like I don't know. I feel like he'd flourish and he'd be like one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country.
Oh, definitely. I think he's a motivator. One of those type of guys. He's a motivator. He pushes guys to be better, and he's going to get the most out of you. The one thing that we heard about him, I think Travion said when he walked in the room, or Judkins said, was when Locke walked in the room, he said, "I'm a dog." I'm a dog. So them guys had to prove every single day that they were a dog too. And Locke was, very judgmental, critical. And I think someone, I don't remember, somebody posted a video of Coach Locke and, his GAs and assistants working on ball security. And you would see how they was hitting the guys who were kind of like walk-ons and stuff. But then, like, when it got to James Peoples, Judkins, and Trey, it was different, bro.
It's like, we're gonna give you a break.
Yeah, so I love it. I love it. I mean, when you got your GAs and your assistants out there bringing that type of intensity as well, it's not just feeding to the players; it's feeding to the staff. And so, when Coach Locke is having to take a step away or whatever, and maybe work on one player, those assistants aren't allowing that intensity to drop off. It's a blessing. And like you said, a strength and conditioning who's over everybody. Imagine if he had every unit like that. Woo!
Yeah. For sure, for sure. I really hope Coach Locke doesn't go anywhere. I want him to be here as long as possible. Everything he's been doing, his intensity, his mentality, his recruiting as well. He's become one of the best recruiters on this staff, and this is a staff with Tim Walton and Brian Hartline on it, and James Laurinaitis. So, just can't say enough good things about Coach Locke. All right, so Emeka Egbuka on the year has 2,681 career receiving yard, or not on the year, I apologize. In his career, he has 824 on the year. You add that into everything else, 2,681 career receiving yards. The record is Michael Jenkins, and he was from 2021 or 2001 to 2003. He had 2,746 receiving yards in his career. Do the math. That's 65-yard difference. That means if Emeka Egbuka in this next game against Texas, and if they win in the next game as well, can combine for 66 receiving yards, he will break the career receiving yard record, which to me would be a fantastic accomplishment. I don't know if Emeka Egbuka's got some haters out there on the Ohio State fan base, which I've never gotten. I've always felt like he's just a consistent, good leader, really good piece to the room. He came back, probably would have been a high pick last year. I don't know if he would have been first round because of the injury, but he would have been a high pick last year. He comes back this year. Really sounds like he's just been mentoring J.J. Smith and Carnell Tate as much as possible. Brandon Ennis also, with the few times you've heard him, he's talked about Emeka Egbuka as well. Like, I'm going to remember Emeka Egbuka no matter what happens as a very, very good Ohio State receiver. I'm not going to remember him as one of the greats, right, because there's a lot of other names, and that's no disrespect to him. But I think this record would mean a lot for him and his career and kind of speak to what he was able to do for Ohio State while he was there. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think Ryan Day does a disservice to the players sometimes when he does not disclose injuries. And I think that was one of the reasons about Emeka, because it looked like last year Emeka was playing a bit passive, you know. And I mean, obviously you out there already with an injury, you're not trying to, you know, and your team needs you. You're not trying to, you know, get even more hurt. So, and it takes away from some of your abilities as well. But healthy Emeka, I think he also lost some of the weight that he had gained from last year as well. So, and another thing, them dead legs. You know, we don't really rotate that wide receiver. You know, so another thing why Ryan Day slowed the pace of the game. These wide receivers don't have dead legs this season either. And so they're able to move at a quicker rate, and you're seeing that. So shout out to Emeka, man. He came back as a captain, did his thing.
Did a great job. He did a great job. Really, really happy for Emeka Egbuka and everything he's accomplished in his career. I really hope he gets this record. I think it would be just a really nice thing for him to have, and for people to remember him in the record books. And someday his record will most likely get broken, whether it's Jeremiah Smith or somebody else. His record will most likely get broken if he's able to break it. And if it does, then we'll be able to reflect on Emeka Egbuka. By the way, second, one of my all-time favorites, Chris Olave, 2,711 yards in his career. Boy, would I wish Chris Olave would have been able to break Michael Jenkins. Not because I like Chris Olave better, but just I really do like Chris Olave and his story and everything. So the poll, offensive player of the game, you guys voted Jeremiah Smith. No surprise there, 63%. Will Howard was second, 20%, and then the O-line, and then Trevion Henderson. Reminder, the defensive player of the game, you all voted Jack Sawyer. That I forget. I'd have to go up. And
y'all gotta give Trey some more respect than that, man. That 5%. What he did,
usage, right? Like he didn't touch the ball as many times as some other guys, but I totally agree with you.
I mean, he only touched the ball 11 times. You know, 8 carries, 3 catches, but I mean, his average running 11.8. You know, rushing, and one thing that we've been critical as Ohio State fans is the run game, right? So, I mean, shout out to the run game. We outrushed Oregon in this game. Oregon had
negative rushing yards in this game, Mike.
Look at that. Look at that. What do you average when you average negative? They average negative
23. Negative 0.8 yards per carry.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Negative
it.
23 rushing yards to Ohio State's 181 rushing yards. That's winning the rushing battle, Ryan Day. That is winning the rushing battle.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I mean, I'll have to go listen to the press conference. Like, you don't hear it being a huge talking point. Like, yeah, we ran the ball. You know, it's kind of like just within everything else. They're not making it this big, huge thing. Maybe they did in the press conference, and I wouldn't necessarily be mad about it. But I like that it's just kind of like matter of fact. Like, yeah, we run the ball. So what? You know, like it's the confidence. It's the, you know, act like you've been there before type of thing, and that's what they do. So, Mike, anything else from this game you want to talk about coaching or anything else? I think we probably got to touch on the Texas game at least pretty quick before we get out of here. Anything else you want to touch on with the Buckeyes in this game?
Oh, yes. Devin Sanchez, Carter Lowe, Riley Pettijohn, the young guys going out there and watching that game. I saw Mrs. Sanchez, shout out to her. I seen her tweet it and everything, and she was like, this is exactly where they need to be. And I'm like, right on, learning the standard and what it takes. You know, so they got to see how the team is. I hope that they were able to be out there. I mean, they had on Buckeye jerseys, so yeah, they got to see what it takes, how to prepare in the locker room pregame. Probably was with the team all week as well. So I mean, that is what you want. That is why you want guys to enroll early, man. So shout out to the young guys, because we are looking forward to definitely Devin Sanchez and Riley Pettijohn out there early, man, making some moves. So hopefully Ohio State goes ahead and trusts the rotation.
Yeah, I wrote an article for Scarlet and Game, which, by the way, go follow Scarlet and Game, the website. I also do written content from time to time, so I put out an article over there. I have 3 freshmen who you could see get starter time in 2025, and Devin Sanchez and Riley Pettijohn were 2 of those 3. The other one being Nate Roberts, because tight end is a position, but that was before we got Max Clare. Now that we got Max Clare, I don't know about that, but I mean, it could happen. It could happen still, but maybe not starter time. He'll probably see some snaps. Nate Roberts really good player, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. Really awesome those guys were able to be there, and especially be on the sideline as well. Brady Edmonds was at the game too. The California 2027 quarterback commit, he was there as well, so that was cool. He wasn't on the sidelines or anything. You can't do that with recruits right now, but he was at the game for sure. So all right, Mike, let's talk about Texas. We got Texas coming up. What day is that? I don't even know when.
The 10th. I already know. Okay. I believe it's the 10th, man. My daughter has a dance competition.
Okay. So you're gonna be that dad with the phone down in the lap, like, you know, I'm watching you, honey. I'm watching you. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure some stuff out, man. I am trying to figure some stuff out. Let's just say that. We'll see, man. But yeah, Daddy's definitely gonna be there trying to support for sure.
For sure. That's a good dad move. Good dad move. Texas, they beat Arizona State 39-31 overtime. I mean, everybody thought Texas was going to kill them, including me. I thought Arizona State stood a chance to beat them, but I still was like, I think this is going to be a 2 or 3 score game. But Texas does what a lot of people thought Texas would do. Their offense stalled out. They did a really good job in the first half, but their offense kind of stalled out. They weren't able to run the ball against Arizona State, even without being able to get a ton of pressure on Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, I mean, his stat line is going to look really good, 20 for 30, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. But I mean, he wasn't able to throw the ball for a lot of that game.
More picks than that. That's what I'm saying. Our DBs got to get on the jug machine. I do not want to waste the DBs and linebackers. I do not want to waste those opportunities.
Totally. I'm 100% with you. But Texas's defense, we heard Tennessee had the best defense in the SEC. Then they ran into Ohio State, and it was like, okay, Texas has the best defense in the SEC is kind of what it started to get to. Well, now Texas has to face Ohio State after in this game against Arizona State. There were 2 overtimes, but here's some numbers about Arizona State and how they did. 510 total yards against Texas's defense, 214 rushing yards, 296 passing yards in this game, 129 yards after the catch, 28 total first downs in this game, 97 total overall plays. I mean, you ask me, is that the best defense in the SEC? Maybe they've shown it at times this season. They did not show it in this game against Arizona State. If I'm a Texas fan, I am terrified going out of that Arizona State game and going into this game against Ohio State, where you've seen them just absolutely dismantle Tennessee and Oregon's defenses.
Yeah, and to be honest, I felt like Arizona had beat themselves, the defensive coordinator. I felt like it was that at that point where he sent way too many guys. He sent the blitz, like sent the house, and boom, they went ahead and scored. And I felt like, why would you do that? Like you basically, like, I think it was the first overtime as well. Like you had the game. Why are you doing that? Like they have to score. So Arizona defensive coordinator learned a hard lesson. But yeah, there were some things concerning. I will say that I knew that Texas, I think they were without their right tackle. So I knew that could possibly be an issue. But I mean, Ohio State has been dealing with that issue, you know. So I mean, it's your right tackle. It should be fine. So
yeah, I got no sympathy for teams losing offensive linemen after what we've been through, Mike. Like, if you want to use that as an excuse, whatever. It's not valid. Ohio State lost their two best, so
right. I mean, we tell people you lose your quarterback. I ain't trying to hear it, man. Cardell Jones, man, shout out, Cleveland boy. So yeah, I mean, and then also like their defense. I think their defense came alive, started off early. But I think that they took their foot off the gas. And I think that was one of the issues, man. They took their foot off the gas. They kind of had the running back. He was frustrated. He was yelling at his coaches, yelling at his teammates. His teammate was trying to get him up. He was slapping their hands away. And so I think that Texas took their foot off the gas a little bit because they had a chance to put them away. I even put out a tweet. I said the Big 12, ACC, and the G5 just don't belong in the CFP. And I mean, I'll tell you this: if Texas comes out and look like how I guess Tennessee looked against us, I don't think that they are. I think that they are a better team than Tennessee. But if they do, I'm going to have some real questions about the SEC. I'm already having, I don't know if you see my tweets about the SEC lately, but there are really some questions that need to be had about the SEC. Not just about, because I think that is the Big Ten better in coaching, or are there better coaches out here than just what's in the SEC? Because I think that the SEC has talent. South Carolina, they have more talent than Illinois. Shouldn't have lost. Like, I mean, what the stuff that we were hearing about Tennessee and that defense kind of made you a little bit nervous, right? Like, and then it was like, that's why we were all shocked at what our offense did, you know? So, I mean, there are some questions in. One thing that you even heard the announcers they were talking about on game day was when Tennessee played someone, I mean, when Texas played someone who's just as physical as them or even more, they don't do too well.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I think to your question, my answer would be, look, the Big Ten has more money for coaches, and it shows. The SEC, I think, has more money, at least for right now, for players, and it shows. But I think at the end of the day, if the player talent is equal enough, good coaching wins it in the end. So if you have enough equal talent, which is what happened in that Illinois-South Carolina game, if you have enough equal talent, I'm with you. I think South Carolina definitely had more talent, but the talent was equal enough that Illinois was able to outcoach, Brett Bielema in particular was able to outcoach Shane Beamer in that one. Shane Beamer couldn't keep his cool. He looked like a petulant child. He got right into his head.
That was insane.
He got right into his head. And you had Shane Beamer going against the unwritten coach's rule. Did you hear about that? Did you hear the story with the T-bar?
I heard Brett Bielema talking about it, but I mean, I didn't understand why that set Shane Beamer off.
So a lot of people were saying that he was taunting Shane Beamer, But Brett Bielema, because he was doing the substitutions, right? And that's the motion that the refs do for substitution. So everybody thought he's taunting Shane Beamer. No, the thing that happens, and Brett Bielema talked about it in his postgame, he said, what do you do on kickoffs in the NFL, because so many players get hurt, is you let the other team know across the field, hey, we're going to fair catch this. So don't go too hard. Like, just chill. Don't get anybody injured. We're just going to fair catch this. So they'll look over to the other sideline, whether it's the head coach, the special teams coordinator, whoever it is, and they'll just stand there like that with the T-bar signal out. Well, that's what South Carolina did. South Carolina did the T-bar signal to Illinois. And guess what South Carolina did? They caught the ball and they took it, which resulted in one of the Illinois players getting injured. That was who Brett Bielema was going over. And so that was Brett Bielema's way of showing the North Carolina coaching staff, like, hey, I saw what you did. Like, you lying sons of a, like, you guys lied to try and get an edge. Now my player got hurt. Now you're not getting any mercy type of deal, where it's like you want to have an unwritten rule in coaching but not respect that. Like, Shane Beamer should know better. He's a son of a coach. He should respect that kind of stuff. But of course not, because he's an SEC fool and they don't respect that kind of stuff. They're trying to do anything they can to win the game because they know if they get beat by a Big Ten team, they're going to get roasted for it, deservedly so, because every hypothetical matchup they win. Sorry, I could go on and on and on about it, but
shout out Dylan Stewart.
That's what the story of it all kind of was. It wasn't Brett Bielema taunting them. It was him saying, I know what you did.
Right. And I think he said like something about like when his player got hit, his player wasn't even looking or something like that. I don't know. It's definitely a sad situation. I mean, like I said, bro, like that SEC stuff, bro, it's off. I don't understand. Like, why not go learn under Larry Johnson? Like, why not go learn and be able to play with the best? I mean, NIL money, it's all fun, but
I'm talking about Dylan Stewart.
I mean, yeah, I don't understand why I'm playing for a coach like that. You did something effed up, and now you're throwing a tantrum because you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, I think it speaks more to the player, and he just, I mean, I don't know, Dylan Stewart. Far from me to, question his competitive.
Is that his hometown or something?
I don't think so. Far from me to question his competitiveness, but to me that says I would rather have the bag than win.
Right.
Which I get it. You want the bag, but it's not like Ohio State wasn't offering a bag. Ohio State, of course, was offering a bag. But, I mean, this is the part of NIL and everything else, which I know this stuff a little bit better than some other people, but Ohio State hardly ever comes out as the highest offer to any given kid. Ohio State wasn't the highest offer to Devin Sanchez. Ohio State wasn't the highest offer to Naeem Offord. Ohio State wasn't the highest offer to Riley Pettijohn. Like,
Facts.
Ohio State hardly ever, you probably know that from knowing the Pettijohns. Like, Ohio State hardly ever comes out as the highest offer. But what they do offer is the brotherhood, the on-the-field development, the ability to win, and a stable environment for your son to go to, right? South Carolina ain't a stable environment. I mean, there's a lot of places out there that's not good environment for your kid just by looking at the coach and what he's doing.
Facts.
And
that's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. So
see, JR, that's why that's why we work together. JR reeled it in.
That's why we know.
Me
and you, Mike. Hey,
we got a super chat.
Yeah, let's bring up Sean's super chat. Sean's super chat. He said, were you ever concerned, and thanks for the $10, Sean. He said, were you ever concerned during the first half that you weren't actually experiencing reality, but you were actually part of a Neuralink simulation study? I did pinch myself at one point. I just thought it was a dream. I didn't think, Neuralink simulation study, but that's a good point. I mean, it was amazing. And part of me did think about it, Mike, like, what if they do blow them out? What if Ohio State goes out there and Oregon's just not ready to go? They jump on them early and they blow them out. Now, I didn't think they'd, get 34-0. Of course, Oregon eventually scored there, but I thought, what if they do win by 2 or 3 scores? What do you think, Mike?
Man, to be honest, maybe he might be on to something. My brain tingling a little bit. I'm just but I mean, to be honest, was I a little bit shocked? Maybe kind of, but we've been talking on the Best Dad Media platform about this, and especially in our Discord. We watch a lot of film. Definitely check us out if you like to watch film. we watch film. You know, we'll rewatch games over and over, talk about it, different plays. And one thing that we saw from the last time we played Oregon, the reason they were getting us a lot of times, our defense wasn't set. Our defense wasn't set. So when you compound that, and also we weren't ready for tempo. I was talking to my wife and I said, you know, the amazing thing about us preparing for Tennessee last week and working on their tempo, I said, it's the same thing, worrying about Oregon's tempo. So now the guys are already in rhythm. They're ready for it. And I said, I think that Oregon has to worry more about what they're going to see from our defense than what we're going to see from their offense. And that's exactly what happened. So I wasn't too shocked because we had been breaking down the game and talking about it. And so there were definitely things that we knew that we could exploit, and just glad that the $1 million coaches saw that.
You make $1 million for a reason. So appreciate you, putting that to good use. So, all right, Mike, anything else you want to get to?
On
yeah, for sure.
Dang, see what I'm saying? They don't do it. Shine, he definitely gonna be a stud, man. I agree.
He is for sure. Anything else you want to get to, Mike, before we get out of here?
No, man. I think that it's going to be a pretty good game. A lot of people have been complaining about. Actually, I do want to talk to you because I don't know if you've seen the Matt B. Great guy or whatever talking about. I don't know why Big Ten fans are so happy about meaningless bowl games. Well, guess what I did? I caught him celebrating Missouri beating Ohio State without Marvin Harrison and majority of their offense production. And I want to talk about kind of just what are your thoughts about all of these SEC fans who want to say that the bowl games are meaningless or whatever whenever they're losing it, but when they're beating up on people, they want to celebrate it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, it is – I really don't watch Matt B. Great much. I really don't know much about him. So who knows?
It was just his tweet, not watching.
Yeah. Because I know he's got a YouTube channel as well. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is the SEC way, right? If you win a bowl game, it's the biggest thing in the world. But if you lose it, you're like, they didn't really come to play anyway. Like, no big deal. Which, for me, I think bowl games matter more for coaching than anything else. Like, I think if you win a bowl game, it speaks more to your coaching because you're probably missing a player or two or something like that. So for me, I think I look at it more like that than anything else. But like, I can also see you saying like, well, we were missing this, we were missing that. But you look at that Alabama game, Alabama had a lot of the same players, and Michigan had hardly any of their players playing in that one. Illinois was missing more players than South Carolina was. Like, Illinois, Pat Bryant, their star wide receiver, he opted out of that game. South Carolina had Lenora Sellers, like, they had all their star players, but Illinois didn't. So, like, I get it if it's like, oh, yeah, this team opted out or had a whole bunch of guys opt out and stuff like that. Okay, am I going to say they won? Sure. Am I going to think it's the biggest deal in the world? No. But when you got literal backups in the Big Ten beating starters in the SEC, I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about it. Yeah, we're going to talk about how fraudulent you are, because if your starters can't beat our backups, it just goes to show either one, your team wasn't really all that good, or two, you had the most toxic culture in the world, and it goes to show why your team was losing to Oklahoma 24-3.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that the SEC fans, like, they never wanted to give the Big Ten credit. And anytime I got in arguments with SEC fans, and I say, wait, I can pull up where Iowa has a win against the SEC. I remember Wisconsin beating on LSU in Lambeau Field. Like, we remember this thing. Penn State went down there. Everybody said, oh, Big Ten, Penn State, they can't beat Auburn. Then when they beat them, they had all the excuse, well, Auburn sucks, all of this stuff. So, I mean, I just think that people need to get credit. Shout out to Kirk Herbstreit getting community noted as well. And then trying to double down like on the BS, talking about false narrative. You said it. What other teams could have been there? it would have been what? Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina, those 9-3 teams or whatever. Definitely not South Carolina and definitely not Alabama. So who, Kirk? And someone called him out on it and said he never wants to say a name so he can come out and say, oh, it's false narratives.
Yeah.
But it's not. Because we know who you was talking about, Kirk. Because you said teams, plural. At least 2 of those teams definitely shouldn't have been in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was CFB Nerds, which I actually do kind of like CFB Nerds to a certain extent. I like their analytical approach to stuff. I think it's different than some other stuff, but they do kind of ride the SEC a little bit more. So I don't really like that. But I get it. You know, the SEC does have the analytics of like recruiting and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like they were the ones that were like, why are all these Big Ten fans, you know, hooting and hollering about SEC teams losing and stuff like that? And it's like, because literally you've had this conference for ages now just talk about how great they are and they deserve 6 teams in the playoffs and the Big Ten don't deserve even more than 2, maybe 3 if they're being generous. Like, you're talking about all this stuff and then you go out and you get waxed. Like, of course, you talk all this crap. We're going to make sure you know about it when you get proven wrong. It's the same thing that happened with Oregon fans in this one. I think it was Buckeye Fett that said something like, oh, yeah, Oregon didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs. You know, he's joking.
Right.
But Oregon fans were like, no, don't even say that. But Oregon fans were literally the ones a month ago like, oh, yeah, Ohio State lost to Michigan. They shouldn't even be in the playoffs. It's like, all right. You're gonna throw it our way. We're gonna throw it back to you. So, you know, a lot of people talk and a lot of people don't want to throw them back in their face when they get proven wrong. That's what I've learned in life.
Yep.
So, all right, Mike, appreciate it. Appreciate everybody here being with us and watching along. You can catch me at JR's Rankings. That's JRS_rankings on Twitter. I also do a Big Ten show called the Big Ten Huddle. You can find that on Twitter at the Big Ten Huddle. And you can also find us at the Big Ten Huddle podcast on YouTube as well. We got football and basketball over there as well. So if you're a basketball fan, go over there, check us out. Ohio State doing pretty okay in basketball now. Aaron Bradshaw's back. They beat Kentucky. Feeling good there. 30-point loss to Auburn. That's behind us. Not thinking about that anymore. So we're ahead there. Mike, where can people find you?
Man, you can find me on Best Damn Media channel, man. You can find me right there on YouTube, Best Damn Media, every Wednesday. The Fans Edge. We will be talking all college football. So still talking about the playoffs, talking about some bowl games as well. So make sure you tune in next Wednesday over there. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. It is going to be fun. Follow me at 216_wildboy as Michael likes to keep those receipts. And I have already started. If you do follow me, some people already know I have started. So it's going to be a fun night, week with these receipts.
I love it. I love it. Keep doing the receipts. I had a few myself that I was doing during the game. So, which normally not like me. I normally wait till after the game, but I felt pretty confident in that one. So
Same.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Subscribe to all the other Voice of College Football channels as well. We got a lot of good content from all of their creators out there. And, of course, follow the main channel with Mark. I'm sure he'll be doing a call-in show and stuff like that. If it's not already gone on, it's probably going on now or maybe later or something like that. So check it out. We appreciate everybody being here, and we'll see you on the 10th after that game. Hoping to have 2 more shows. Cross your fingers, 2 more shows. We'll see you, everybody.
Oh, wait.
I-O.